and welcome back to another YouTube video. I had to check if my microphone was on. I hope you guys are doing fine and well. I have not been crocheting. I literally took an entire week off because I didn't know what I was gonna make next. But I finally decided on what we're making. So you guys have already seen what it looks like from the title and thumbnail. But in this clip I have no idea what this is gonna look like. So like you guys have seen, we are using these three different colors. They are from the same brand. It's called a satin. When I saw it, I just knew like the quality of the yarn was gonna be different. It's also a bit slightly expensive compared to the rest of the yarn that I use for my crochet tutorials, so I just knew the quality was going to be delicious. um it's a little bit lightweight, so this is not a medium weight yarn, it's a bit lightweight. I think you can also use a medium weight yarn for this project. I would not suggest you go higher because this is summer. I'm literally making this pattern for us flowy summer feet, so using a size bigger is going to make your piece heavier, and I don't think you'd like it. You're also going to need measurement tape to take a measurement. I usually take my measurements in inches, but I don't have one at the moment, so we're going to be using centimeters for today's tutorial, and the pattern will also be linked down below in case you want to grab the pattern and support me in the little way. I appreciate you so much. So let's get right into the video. Let's get started. We are going to be starting with the front panels, and then we'll later on work on the back panel after we have an estimate of what the front panel is going to be for different sizes. You can also grab the pattern which has different sizes included if you want to make this for different sizes. So we are going to get started with a slip knot, and if you've worked my open shell pattern before, you know it's worked in multiple of 7 and 7. So 7 means basically 7 7 7 7. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and you're going to chain 5. 1 2 3 4 5. This is going to be the measurement for your shoulders, guys. It's going to be a shoulder measurement, one shoulder, so not your both shoulders. I will show you guys exactly what I mean in a clip. So right there you can see that I have a total of, in the unstretched form it's about 20 centimeters, and that is basically my shoulder measurement. So to get started, we are going to be skipping the next 4 stitch chains. So you're skipping 1 2 3 4, and right into this 5th you're going to yarn over and insert a double crochet. Just like that. From there on, you are going to go ahead and chain 4. That we skip, it's basically a double crochet, chain 1, and then we're inserting the double crochet into that next stitch, right? So after that, you're going to chain 4, and you're going to skip the next 6 chains. So you're skipping 1 2 3 4 5 6, and into your 7th, you're going to yarn over and insert a double crochet, chain 3 into that same chain. So you're basically creating a V stitch for this next stitch right there. From there on, we are going to chain 4, skip the next 6 stitches, next 6 chains. So basically 1 2 3 4 5 6, and into the 7th you're going to yarn over and insert your V stitch. So a double crochet, chain 3, and another double crochet into that same stitch. From there on, you're going to chain 3, skip the next 6 stitches, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and into the 7th chain you are going to insert a V stitch, which is a double crochet, a chain 3, and a double crochet. And this is what you're going to repeat until you get to your very last set of 7 chains. to make sure I do the same thing that I did at the very beginning. Remember I told you guys that this chain 4 is a double crochet chain 1. So what we're going to do, we are going to go ahead and chain 4 to end of the row, and right into our very last chain. So basically skip the next 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that will lead you to your last chain. You're going to go into your last chain with a double crochet, the center pieces. You're going to do the same thing we did at the very beginning. So you're going to chain 1 instead and go back into that same stitch with an additional double crochet. And again, this basically evens what we did at the beginning. I always say whatever you do at the beginning, you want to make sure you do at the very end, because that's just the pattern. That's just it. So we're now going to get started with the next row, but you should have, so far you should have something like this. Chain in 3 and turn. This chain 3 we just did is a double crochet stitch on its own. Right into this very first chain 1 space, you are going to insert a double crochet, yarn over and insert another double crochet, yarn over and insert your last double crochet. Sorry. So at the end, you should have a total of 4 double crochets into this chain 1 space. The reason why you have 4 is because the chain 3 we did at the very beginning is also a stitch on its own. So that it gives you a total of 4 double crochets. So right into this chain 4 space, right, and insert a single crochet. So go right into the chain, grab the yarn and pull through. When you have 2 loops, you're going to yarn over and pull through on 2 loops. And right into the next V stitch, which is this chain 3 space, you're going to yarn over and insert a total of 7 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A total of 7. And into your next chain 4 space, you're going to do the same thing we did at this previous one by inserting 1 single crochet. From there on into the next chain V stitch, sorry, we are going to insert 7 double crochets, just the same thing we did right there. Just like that. From there on, you're going to go right into this next with a single crochet and into your next with 7 double crochets. You're going to repeat this until you get to the very end of your row. So coming to your very last chain 4 space, you are going to go ahead and single crochet into that first into that last chain 4, right? From there on, we have a chain 1, we have a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Do on this side, you want to make sure you do on the very end. So at the very beginning, we had 4 double crochets, which means into this chain 1 space to end of the row, we are going to yarn over and insert a total of 4 double crochets all into the same space, so we can balance off what we did at the very beginning of this second row, like that. So you should have something like this at the very end. We're going to start row 3, which is, it looks similar to the first row, but it's a little bit different because this time we have shells that we're working with, and the first row we had chains that we were working with, but it's basically the same thing. So for the next row, which is row 3, you're going to go ahead and chain 4 and turn, chain 4 into the very first stitch. You're going to yarn over and insert a double crochet, and again the chain 4 is a double crochet chain 1. That is what it means in this pattern. From there on, we are going to chain 4 And into this very set of 7, we are going to go into the 4th, into the center stitch. So you're counting your double crochets. So right here I have 1, 2, 3, and this is the 4th. We're going to yarn over and insert a double crochet. From there on, I'm going to chain 3 and insert a double crochet again into that same stitch. So we're creating a V-stitch like we did in the row 1, but this time we're doing it above the shells. And you should have something like this. From here on, you're going to chain 4, sorry, and into this next set of 7 double crochets into the 4th, which is a double crochet, a chain 3, and a double crochet. From there on, you're going to chain 4, and into this next set of 7, you're doing the same thing. Go into the 4th with a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, a chain 3, and a double crochet, all into that same space. Go ahead and repeat this until you get to the end. And after your last V-stitch above your 7 sets, you're going to end off the row by chaining 4. And right into this very last, if you look here, you have a total of 4 stitches. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitch. You're going to go ahead and insert a double crochet. You're going to chain 1 and an additional double crochet. And this is again going to balance off the double crochet, chain 1 double crochet we had at the very beginning. And this is what your work should look like. So we're going to repeat row 2 and row 3 over and over again for few rows, for a total of 4 rows actually. And then I'll see you guys and show you guys what the next step is. So chain 1, insert your additional 3 double crochets, so you can have a total of 4 right there into your chain 4 space with a single crochet, and into your V-stitch, which is this 3 double crochets, 3 chain, sorry, you are going to yarn over and insert a total of 7 stitches. And guys, just do this for a total of 4 shells. So when you have 4 shells, I will see you guys in. So I just finished my first panel. So instead of 4, I ended up doing 6 set of shells. So we currently have something like this, which comes all the way down to this area, because I don't want the opening to be super low. But if you want your opening to be super low, your neckline, sorry, all you have to do is do more rows until it's this, until you have 2. So you are of course gonna need 1 for the left and 1 for the right. And of course you're gonna chain the same amount of chains. So I ended up chaining 14 total. So I did the same thing for the opposite side, the same width and also the same length. So do that when you have both, then we can move to the next step. So guys, now with both panels, we are now going to add the shells, the amount of shells we currently have. And the reason why we're doing that is because, again, like I said, we're starting with the front panel, but we want to make sure there is a gap for the neck line later on. You guys will see the reason why we're doing it. So this is supposed to be the gap. For me, I am going to just use 4 shells I'm going to add an additional 4 shells to this, so it can actually give me the gap. And if I take the measurement, you can see that 4 shells, which is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, is a total of 14, about 14 inches, centimeters, sorry, about 14 centimeters, and that is about the same length around my neck area, so that works fine. So what we're going to do now to add the amount of shells we have, I still have my yarn attached on both ends of the panels. So I'm going to go ahead and chain a total of 21 chains, and that is a multiple of 7, but then in 3, right? The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to add the width of the panel, obviously, and you guys are going to see later on how this will work, play around. So if you're making any size, I'll suggest you chain. If you're making a size small, I'll suggest you just do 14, and if you're making a size bigger, I'll suggest you add maybe do 28 instead of 21, so like a large or above. Yeah, you're just going to chain 21 on one side and you're going to attach that to the opposite panel. Right here I'm doing something a little bit different because later on I had to go back and take that out, but you're basically chaining 21. And you can also see that my chains are more than 21 because in this clip I ended up chaining 28, but I just went back and changed everything. So you're chaining 21 and you're attaching that to the side with a slip stitch to the opposite side of your second panel, so your second panel basically. And right after the slip stitch, you're going to cut off the yarn because we're going to reattach this to the one side of the panel, and we're going to start working the same exact, which is basically row 2 and row 3 repetition of that to have a desired length. So grab your yarn and attach that to one side of your panel. So right before we start, we are going to be doing an increasing for this next row, and this is what is going to give us this flowy A kind of the rest you guys did see from the intro. So we're going to do some increasing. So right into that very first stitch, you want to make sure you go with your chain. You're going to chain 4 and turn, and into that very first stitch with your chaining 4, and into that very first stitch you're going to insert a double crochet, but the increasing is going to be done in between that space. So basically where you did insert your single crochet in the chain 4 from the previous row, you're going to yarn over and go in there with your first stitch. Usually you don't have to, but because we're increasing, you're going in there with a double crochet, a chain 3 and a double crochet into that same space, and this is going to add the amount of shells you have for this row. So right there we have a double crochet, a chain 3, a double crochet, and now you're going to go ahead and chain 4 again and do the same pattern, which is basically into the 7th a double crochet, into the 7th set of double crochets. You're going to go into the 4th. I keep losing my words, guys. So right there, I'm just going to chain 4, and right into this next 7th set I'm going to insert a double crochet into the 4th, and then I'm going to chain 3 and going back into the same stitch with a double crochet. We're only increasing at the very first, so not throughout the pattern. So right there you're just going to chain 4, and you're going to go into the next set of 7 double crochets right into the 4th with your V stitch, and this is what you're going to repeat until you get to the very end of this first panel before you get into the chains. So, and this is what you should have coming to the chains. We have our last set before the chains, right? Usually you would end off the row by going into that stitch with a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, but because that is not the end of the row anymore, that is basically now at the center. So we are going to create shells on that step. Shells are going to be created because we only end of the row, obviously you do the end pattern at the beginning and at the end, so that's not an end stitch anymore. So we're going to do something different from that. So you're going to go ahead and chain 4, and right into that very 4th stitch, the last one, you're going to go ahead and insert a double crochet, and you're going to chain 3 instead of 1, and right into that same stitch again with a double crochet. So now we have a shell stitch right there. From there on, we are now going to work into the chains. So we're going to go ahead and chain 4, and you're going to skip 6 chains, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to the 7th I am going to insert a V stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 3 and a double crochet. You're going to chain 4, skip the next 6 chains, and into the 7th you're going to insert a double crochet, chain 3 and a double crochet, another V stitch. Chain 4, you're going to skip a few chains, and to the next you're going to insert a double crochet, chain 3 and a double crochet. So the next 7th stitch actually leads you back to that opposite panel, which is the 1st stitch, and there you're going to repeat it, and you can see that we have an additional 4 shells. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, additional shells, and that is going to just make sure the panel is wide enough. So from there on, you're going to chain 4 and repeat this until you get to the very end of your last stitch, so basically your last shell. And right before we end of the row, we are going to do another increase on this opposite side, and to do that we are going to go into that stitch. So you're going to chain 4, and right before our last set we're going to go into that single crochet with a double crochet, chain 3 and a double crochet, and this is going to balance off the increasing we did on the opposite side at the very beginning. So you're going to now chain 4 and go into that last stitch with a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So now because you're ending off the row, you're going to do a double crochet, chain 1 and a double crochet, and that is how you're going to end off the row. Super simple, literally the same way we started. That's the same way we just ended off that row. The only difference, we have 6 additional stitches, 6 additional shells. So now you're going to chain 3 and we're going to do the shell row, and we're going to go into that very first chain 1 space with 3 additional double crochets, just the same way you would start your shell row. And then into that chain 4 space right after, you're going to single crochet, and into your next V-stitch you're going to insert 7 double crochets into that chain 3 space. So remember, wherever you have chain 3, you're inserting your 7 set of double crochets, and if you have a chain 1, you're chaining 3 and adding 3 additional, so you have 4 in total. So you're going to insert 7 double crochets all into that very first chain 3 space, and into your next stitch, which is a chain 4, you're going to single crochet. Into the next, which is a V-stitch of chain 3, you're going to insert 7 double crochets, and you're going to repeat this until you get to the end of this row. Super simple. So you are going to repeat this until you have a total of 4 additional sets, but then you're not increasing. So after this row, you're going to just do your usual row 2 and row 3, and then you're going to do that until you have a total of 4 sets. And then I'll show you guys the next step, because we're going to keep increasing, but we are not increasing on every row. So this is our first increase. So after our first increase, we're going to do 4 additional rows with no increasing at all, and then we're going to go ahead and do a second increase and then a third increase, but then we're making sure that we're splitting the increase and also adding the length before we do the next increase, if it makes sense. And right here I am coming back after my first increase is complete. You can tell that I have a total of 4 shells right after I did those rows. So you can make this as long, but I would suggest you just stick with the 4 and you'll be able to just get a good length with that. And just the same way we started the first increase, we are going to do a second increase. So you're going to go into that very first stage with your chain 4 and an extra double crochet. From there you're chaining 4, and right into your single crochet stitch you are going to insert your double crochet, chain 3 and a double crochet, and that is an increase. And again, remember, you're increasing at the beginning and at the end of the row and not in between the stitches. So right there you're just going to continue to do your V-stitch into the 4th stitch in that set of 7 double crochets until you get to the end, where you're going to do another increasing to make sure you balance off the increasing you just did at the very beginning. So I finished my second layer of increase, so now we're going to do the third layer. So far this is what I have. So I'm going to do the last layer, but I'm going to do that for 5 rows, which is going to leave me with a total of 19 shells. So from the very top all the way to the very end, after my last layer, it's going to be a total of 19 sets of shells. And then I'll show you guys what the next step is. But it's honestly the same thing. All you're going to do is you're going to repeat the same exact step. So you remember, you're only increasing for the very first row. Afterwards, you're not increasing anymore until you finish the set. So whenever you want to start another set, then you would increase again for the second time or for the following increase. But yeah, this is what I have so far. I'm just going to repeat this, and then I'm going to switch to my second color. So right here I am going to switch to my next color. I have a total of 18 set of shells at this point. So I did 3 layers of increase, which means each layer had 4. That leaves you with 12, and then the 6 that we had at the very top of the separate panels in total will give you a total of 18. From there on, I'm going to just end off the row with this first color before I switch to the next. So you can grab your next color if you decide to do that, but if you want to stick to the same color, of course you can do that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a switch right there with the new yarn before I start the next row. We are going to increase again for this row because this is going to be a 4th increase, which means the 4th layer. So from there on, you're going to chain 4 just the same way you would start off your row, and you're going to go back into that same stitch with a double crochet. And you're going to chain 4, and you're going to go ahead and go into that next single crochet space with your increase stitch. So again, you're going to do a double crochet, a chain 3, and a double crochet, and you're going to chain 4 and repeat this pattern until you get to the end. And also don't forget to do your increasing on the opposite side before you end off the row, so you can balance off the increasing you just did at the very beginning. So when it comes to the second color, I did a total of 2 layers. So instead of 3, I did 2, and that did leave me with a total of 16 plus 8. That would be 24. So I had a total of 24 sets. So after my first 4 with this yarn, I did another increase in just the same way I've been explaining, guys. This pattern is super simple, and of course if you want yours to be longer, you're just going to go ahead and repeat this to however long you want it to be. But I decided to just do 2 more sets of increasing, and that was enough for me. This is what we are working with. So for some reason my microphone went off and I didn't even realize while explaining the next step. So this is what the panel looks like now, and we're going to start the back panel. I don't have clips of the back panel, but I'm going to explain this in a way that you guys can just easily do this, because it's the exact same step. The only difference is with the front panel, we started with 2 separate panels that we later on attach together, and so we can have one, but then the back panel we just have a full panel, which means a foundation chain is going to be different from the foundation chain from the front panel. But I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do the calculations. So remember, for my front panel, my 2 front panel, I chained 35 plus 5. So again, the pattern is worked in multiple of 7 plus 5. So 35 plus 5 gave me a total of 40 for each panel. That was the foundation chain. But because we are working the back panel with a full panel instead of 2 separate panel, you are going to be subtracting that 5 from each of those numbers. So we are going to be using 35 in this case. So the 35 is going to be 35 plus 35 will be 70, and that is going to be a foundation chain, but we're going to do another calculation in a bit. So it's going to be 35 plus 35, and that will leave you with 70, and we're going to do plus 21. The plus 21 is going to be the number we did after our first 6. Remember, we did chain 21 and then we attached that to the opposite side of the panel. We are going to do that, and that will leave you with a total of 91 chain for your foundation chain. And that, if you're making my size, which is a size medium, that's the exact same thing you're doing. But if you're making a size small, you're going to do the same calculation, guys. It's the same exact calculation. However, whatever amount you added after your 6 rows to connect your 2 front panel is the same amount you're going to add to that number, and then you're now later on, that number should still be in the multiple of 7. So 91 is a multiple of 7 plus 5, because again the pattern is worked in multiple of 7 plus 5, and that will give me a total of 96. So for my foundation row for the back panel, that will be 96 chain. So I'm going to chain 96 and just repeat the first row, the second row, the third row the same exact way, and also with the increasing as well, it's the same exact. So you're going to count when you started increasing. For me, I started increasing on the 7th shell, and I did increase again after the 7th shell. I did 3 additional rows, and then after those rows I did my second increase, my third increase, I switched the color to gray, and then I did two more increases. So you're going to do the exact same thing, just this time around you're going to start with a full panel. I have both panels complete, so we are now going to attach these two together so we can move to the next step, which I'm super excited for. But so far this is what we are working with. Obviously the front panel is way different from the back, but it's the same length, which means it's the same amount of shells together. So now we are going to attach the front to the back, making sure that you identify where your good and the wrong side is. For me, if you look at both sides of the panel, you can see that one side has like a shape, like the stitches are more sharper than the opposite side. So that is going to be my good side, while the opposite side is going to be my wrong side. So when I'm attaching these two together, I am going to make sure that I have the wrong side outwards and the good side inwards. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to attach this shoulder panel to one of the back panel, to one side of the back panel. So we're going to attach that with a single crochet, and we are going to do the same thing on the opposite side as well with a single crochet. And then we're going to have the upper part attached, and then we can come back and see what the next step is. But for now, we'll go do that and I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's complete. You should have something like this, guys. This is what it looks like after attaching the shoulder panel together. We are now going to decide how wide we want the armpit area to be, and this is honestly just depending on what you want to go for. If you want to go for a fitted look, then you're going to take your exact, hopefully my microphone is on, then you're going to take your exact armpit hole measurement. And if you want to go for a loose look, you're obviously going to add a few inches to whatever amount your armpit hole is, and this is what we are going to attach. Or just put this on just the same thing I just did. Take a stitch marker and mark both sides, and from the marked area you're going to just single crochet all the way till you get to the very end of the panels. Super simple. I'm going to do that because you guys already know how it's done anyway, and I'll come back and show you guys, because then afterwards we are going to start working on the lower part of the dress. Yay! Okay guys, so right here I have my pieces together, so we have one full piece. I'm just going to cut off the loose ends before I turn this over. So now we are going to flip this panel over because we are going to start with the lower part, and that includes the ruffles at the very end. That's the reason why the original panel is super short, because I know the ruffles are going to add a little length to it. So you have to keep that in mind when you're making your piece, to make sure that you leave a good length for the ruffles, just in case you want to have the same length as I do. After attaching your yarn, I'm going to now go ahead and chain one and go into that very first space right there with 2 double crochets. I like to grab this excess yarn, and I'm going to now make my way into every stitch with 2 double crochets. So right there, my very first stitch, I am going to insert 2 double crochets into the next 2 double crochets, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat this by inserting 2 double crochets into every stitch all around the entire pattern, guys. This is super simple. Hey guys, so I am coming to the very end where I started. I'm just going to still repeat the 2 double crochets into every stitch until I get to that very first stitch I made. So coming to the last, I am going to insert 2 double crochets into that, and I'm going to find the very first stitch and go into that first stitch with a slip stitch. And this is how you end off your row. You're going to chain one and go into that stitch again with 1 double crochet, and this is how you're going to start the next row. For the next row, you're just inserting 1 double crochet into each, so you're not increasing anymore. And you're going to repeat this all around. When you get to the very top, the very first stitch, you're going to slip stitch, chain one, and do the same thing until you have whatever amount of rows that you want to do. I only have 1 ball of yarn left, so I don't know how much I will be able to do, but I'm just going to repeat this and then I'll show you guys when I have the lower part complete. So we are going to get started with the sleeve area, but this is what the ruffles look like. I did not have enough yarn to do more rows, so I just ended up with 3. But if you have more yarn, of course you can make this as long as you want it to be. We are going to start with the sleeve. I still have a little bit left of the pink, so I wanted to go around the sleeve with a few rows of shells just so I can have something to fall off my shoulders. So I'm going to reattach my yarn around the armpit area with a secure knot. And right after, we are going to go into that same loop, the same space. You're going to grab the yarn and chain a total of 4 chains. So this 4 chains again is a double crochet and a chain 1. After, you're going to yarn over and insert a double crochet right into that same space, just like that. Chain 4. After your chain 4, you're skipping the next space, and into the next set you're going to insert a double crochet, chain 3, and a double crochet. It's a bit difficult for me to explain exactly what you're doing, but you can see there that I'm skipping a stitch. So you're chaining 4, you're skipping this first, and into the next one right there you're going to insert a double crochet, chain 3, and a double crochet. So the stitch that we're skipping is basically acting like a 6 chains, because you know you need to skip 6 chains and go into the 7th with a double crochet, chain 3, and a double crochet. And you're going to, of course, go ahead and repeat that all around until you get to the very beginning of the row. And to end everything off, you're going to chain 4, and you're going to go ahead and go into the third chain into that very first stitch. 3, you're going to go into the third chain with a slip stitch, and that is how you're going to end off this very first row before you start your shell row. So it's the same pattern, but this time around we're working in rounds. So you're going to chain 3, and you're going to go into that chain 1 space with 3 additional double crochets, and that will leave you with a total of 4 double crochets into your chain 4 space. You're going to single crochet, and then into the next stitch, which is a V stitch of a chain 3, you're going to insert 7 double crochets all into that same stitch. And just the same way you worked your panels, this is how you're going to work this sleeve area, by inserting, creating your shells as you go until you get to the very end of the row. So right here, coming to the end of the row, we are going to end off the row by going into that very first stitch, the first double crochet we did at the very beginning. You're going to go into that very first stitch with your, but before then you want to make sure you single crochet into your chain 4 and go into that last stitch again, like I said, with your slip stitch, and that actually just completes your first shell. If you want to do another shell, you're going to chain 4, go into that same stitch with a double crochet, and this time around, because we already have shells, it's super easy. You're going to chain 4, and you're going to go into the next set of shells into the 4th with your V stitch. So a double crochet, a chain 3, and a double crochet. And this is what you're going to repeat all around until you get to the end of the row. You're basically repeating the same pattern until you have your desired sleeve length, however long you want that to be. And guys, this is what it looks like. I even did a pixie the day before, but I wanted to show you guys what it looks like. I ended up doing just 2 sets of shells again, just because I was running out of yarn, but at the same time I still wanted to add a little length to the sleeve area. So now we're going to start doing the neckline. So I wish I had more pink. I should have just used that, but because I don't and I only have white, then I'm going to use the white. But guys, just take a look at my pixie cord. Let me know what you guys think in the comment. I have not even digested this look entirely, but I just wanted to do something new for the summer. Anyway, we're back to the neckline. You're going to grab your working yarn, and again, like I said, you can use whatever color you want to use for this area. So if you want to use one color for the entire piece, that is totally fine as well. You don't have to switch colors if you don't want to. So you're going to reattach your yarn on one side of the panel. Remember we did a total of 6 set of shells before we did the additional 4 at the center on the front panel. So you can also put this on and decide where exactly you want your neck piece to fall, because then it's easier for you to just mark that area first. And right after, we are going to go all around the neck area until we get to the opposite side with a single crochet. And this is just going to be a foundation for us to start working. So you're going to chain 1 and go into every available space around. You can't really tell how many chains you have, but you're just seeing I'm going into every available space, making sure that I'm not inserting more than 1 single crochet into any space, but at the same time there are no gaps in between each of the stitches, so they're basically close to each other, but at the same time you're not going to double any stitch. So that is what I'm going to do all around the neckline until I get to the opposite side. And when I say opposite side, I'm not saying all the way down, but just basically where I stopped. So I did count 2 shells downwards, so I'm going to stop right where the second shell ends, and I will show you guys exactly what that looks like. So this is what we have going on, and this is what mine looks like. We are going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn, because I'm doing this for a total of 4 rows. So right into that very first stitch, I'm going to insert 1 single crochet, and I'm going to continue to do that until I go all around. And of course, like I said, I'm doing this for 4 rows. So when I get to the end of this row, I'm going to chain 1 and go back and do that until I have a total of 4 rows. And this is going to be a foundation before we start working on the rest of the pattern. And you should have something like this when it's complete. We are now going to go ahead and work the long panel around the neck area. So right there you can see that I'm just slightly going to turn my panel. I'm going to chain 1 and insert 1 single crochet into each row. So I did 4 rows, which means I'm going to end up doing 4 single crochets right there. So I'm going to go into the third and lastly going to insert my last single crochet into that stitch. From there on, I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to go into the very first single crochet with 1 single crochet, into the next with 1 single crochet, and into the next until I get to the end. Right after, I decided to switch to a double crochet because single crochet is shorter and I wanted the stitches to work up very quick. So I'm just still inserting 1 double crochet into every single crochet I just made, and then I'm going to chain 1 and turn and start the next row. I did this for a total of 6 double crochets, and then afterwards we're going to do an increasing, because if you look at the piece you can see that the neck area starts very tiny and then it gets bigger as you go. So I am going to repeat this with no increasing or decreasing until I have a total of 6 double crochet rows. So after my 5 rows, I'm going to chain 1 and turn for the next row, and this is going to be the increase row. So I'm going to yarn over and go into that very first stitch with 2 double crochets, and again whatever you do at the beginning you're doing at the end. So after that you're going to go ahead and insert 1 double crochet into the next few stitches until you get to the last stitch. And of course when you get to that last stitch you're inserting an additional double crochet right there, and you're going to chain 1 and turn. The next row is not going to be an increase, so you're just inserting 1 double crochet into every stitch until you get to the end, and that is what I did for an additional 5 rows. So you're increasing just the same way we increased around the pattern, which was we did 1 increase and then did few rows with no increase, and that's the same thing we're doing for this until this panel is wide, a little bit wider. But of course, if you don't want it to be wide, you're just going to repeat a straight panel. So you can see that mine looks like this so far, and it's honestly just the simplest thing to do. You're just going to keep increasing after every 5 rows. So after 5 rows, you're going to increase at the beginning and at the end, and you're going to do that until your panel is wide enough at the very end. And when that is complete, you're just going to cut off your yarn and reattach that to the opposite side of the panel, and you're going to do the same exact step to have the same exact length, making sure you're using the same exact increase pattern as well, so you can have an identical 2 different pieces together around the neck area.
Me, I like to get it poppin', but these bitches in my business call me ultra choosing violence. If you see me out in public, you don't know me, keep it silent. In the bedroom, I be screaming, but outside I keep it quiet. You honestly, I'm the lowest of the lowest. Crazy, you can keep it like nobody knows it.